Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons Elite Specialization Speculation fan-made video. That was a long title. That is not the official title of this series, but that is straight to the point what this is about. But once again, now that we have the expansion title, I'm finishing off my 9 profession-long fan-made Elite Specializations. I have the 7 other ones already up, all done with the light armor, all done with the medium armor. I did the warrior, and I'm going to be finishing up with the guardian today, and then revenant right after. So, welcome to this episode of my fan specialization series. In this video, I'll be going over a heavy armor elite spec, the guardian, I have made. The subjects I'll be covering include weapon type and skills, utility skills, professional mechanics or changes, while finally ending on minor traits and a sampling of some major trait ideas. Be sure to check out my other elite spec ideas in the playlists and be on the lookout for the last video coming up. So, today we're going to be continuing with the Guardian Elite Specialization, the Monk. Yes, the Monk. Definitely not the most innovative or new name or title to give an elite spec, considering monks were in Guild Wars 1. We have a couple references to monks in the game through skills and traits and all that stuff, but I wanted to focus in and just fully give the fantasy of a Guild Wars 2 monk. So, with that said, let's start with the weapon skills, then go into utilities, well, class mechanics and then utilities, and then, of course, the traits. So, I went all out with Guardian because Guardian is it's my main, and I love Guardian. So this focuses in on some support and some damage as well. The weapons I am giving the Guardian, yes, weapons, are main hand focus and also offhand sword. So first and foremost, let's go with the focus auto attack. First and foremost, we have Smiting Fist. Send out a Smiting Fist to strike an enemy from afar. This weapon set is mid-range. Next, Smiting Combo. Send out two Smiting Fists, it says A2, 2 Smiting Fists to strike an enemy from afar. This is just another chain. And then finally, in the third auto and final auto attack, it is Divine Blast. Launch a shockwave of divine energy, striking enemies and healing allies. It pierces, it's just like a little, concussive cone bullet thing. It'll strike 5 enemies and 5 allies. Pierces range 900, just a nice auto attack. Next, we're going to the focuses symbol. I decided to make Symbol of Benediction. Bless an area of divine magic, dealing damage to enemies and healing allies. It also grants resistance. So the damage is just more minor, but the healing is the main star and also the resistance. The main hand focus is more supportive. Radius of 180, range of 900, affects 5 enemies and 5 allies, so on and so forth. So next we have the focus third skill, which is a 2-chain flip over skill, so keep that in mind. First, for my third ability, it's Divine Benison. Bless yourself with supportive magic, creating a mobile healing field around you. While allies are inside this spell, they take reduced damage as well. So healing over 8 ticks, 8 seconds, and the damage reduction of 8% over 8 seconds as well. Radius of 300, number of allies 5. You can cast this skill again, and it leads to a flip over skill titled Anointed Communion. Anointed Communion is and reads, confess your divine benison, casting a healing burst at a target location. Allies receive a strong heal and have select boons increased in duration. If you use this skill, the Divine Benison, your third ability, will go on a longer cooldown, as you're kind of sacrificing this for a really strong burst heal. So a burst heal of 2100. Boons that will be extended by 1 second include protection, resistance, and alacrity. A radius of 360, and you can cast this at range from 900. The first part of the skill is a mobile field around you, or you can confess it to launch it and have it explode at a target location. 10 allies. So, and it affects many more allies than just the 5. So that was the focus. Moving on to the Offhand Sword. The Offhand Sword is melee focused and damage oriented. So, the 4th ability is called Castigation Saber. Strike your enemy, dealing damage and sending out a soul flame behind them, further damaging and burning enemies. This is kind of like a linear AoE, but more damage from the first person you strike. It's kind of like you strike them and their soul flame just shoots back like almost like a little shockwave, a linear shockwave. So damage, extra damage from the flame, and will apply burning as well. The 5th ability is similar to something that we have seen. Soul Keeper, I believe that's her name. The Char who died and we fight in visions of the past. I've taken great inspiration from that skill effect. So the 5th one is called Extinguish Evil. Rapidly slash your foe with your sword, dealing damage while sending out soul embers around you with each successful strike. Soul embers remain in a location, damaging and burning foes who walk over them. It's similar to the sprouting like little blue fireballs that are there when you fight Soul Keeper. I think that's her name. Almora Soul Keeper, I believe. And it's similar to the Revenant pickups where they don't move. Someone walks over them and they get blown. They do their effect. They don't linger. So those were the weapons. Next, we're going into the profession mechanics. So for the profession mechanics, Guardians have virtues. I've decided to rebrand them and reconstruct them as prayers. So, the first F1, Prayer of Discipline, passive. Every 5th attack deals an additional strike. This is no longer burning, but rather just flat damage. The active is empower yourself, increasing the damage you deal by 20% while destroying boons on you. You'll have to sacrifice 2 boons, 2 random boons, but you'll get 4 seconds of 20% increased damage. The cooldown on this would be a bit longer. I didn't have a cooldown directly tied to that because I couldn't really think of one. Just it would be a bit longer because it's 20%. The F2 is Prayer of Mending, passive. You heal over time. That is the same. All of these effects, passive effects, are different except the Prayer of Mending. I apologize. But the active is you release an enveloping wave of mending magic, clearing controlling conditions on allies and healing them. The passive prayer is 10 healing stronger than the current one. So I didn't change it, but I did add 10 extra healing. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it might go a bit, just give it a little bit of a buff. The active, however, will cleanse immobilization, cripple, fear, and taunt, and will heal them if any conditions are cleansed. 5 allies, range of 900. The F3 ability, Prayer of Fortitude. The passive is barrier you receive and apply is stronger. You're no longer going to be getting passive Aegis. You will just be enhancing barrier that you receive or will apply. So, the active. You will break any allies in your surrounding area out of stuns. Successful stun breaks will apply barrier to them. This is a group stun break. It's no longer just giving people Aegis. This is a dedicated stun break for the allies. It won't stun break you, however. And any allies who are broken out of stun will gain barrier. Radius at 240. I have added an F4. There is a 4th prayer, Prayer of Divinity. The passive is healing you do to allies at lower health is stronger by 12%. And this applies if allies are at 25% or below health. That's how I would gauge if they're at low health. The active is send out a spirit in a direction to refill allies' endurance while increasing the duration of boons on them. If you use this prayer, though, in my creation, all other prayers would go on a cooldown of 30 seconds. So the Prayer of Divinity, you heal low health allies 12% more. The endurance filled is 30 endurance, and people will have their boons increased in duration by 3 seconds. Range of 1,200, radius of 240 in a road. and 10 allies. This does have quite a long cooldown though, because of how many things it does and, you know, the utility it can bring. So those were the prayers, those were the professional mechanics. Next, let's go and talk about the utility skills. So, for the utility skills, I've given Guardians cantrips to go into that, like, magical realm, because I think cantrips can fit Guardians pretty well. So, the healing skill is Channeled Protection. It's a cantrip. Heal yourself over this spell's duration. While channeling, barrier to allies in a location. I don't have necessarily a AoE indicator in these texts, but it'd be like a 900, 1200 range, like 180 circle, something like that. But you heal 5 ticks rapidly for yourself, but you'll pulse just a little bit of barrier in a location a bit slower. A 3-second channel, your heal will pulse faster than the barrier. Next, we're going into the very first quote-unquote utility skill, this being Succor. The cantrip is cast a ray of healing light towards a direction, healing allies. This is kind of a secondary healing skill, but much more focused on healing allies, and you can use it much faster. So moderate heal of 1200 range, number of allies 5, a radius of 150 in a road in a straight line. You'll have 2 charges of this that cool down on 15 seconds. So you can use this pretty frequently. Next, the second utility is Lifebond. Create a ring of divine magic, preventing allies from falling in combat. I would probably increase the cooldown of this ability in competitive to like 80 seconds, or in PvE to like raise it to 55 seconds. But yeah, in a small ring of 180, your allies cannot go down for 5 seconds. So it's very utility oriented, but a longer cooldown would make it more punishing and probably more balanced. The third utility is Pacifism. This was a skill that was taken away. Well, I drew inspiration from this skill from the tome that used to be in vanilla Guild Wars 2 that Guardians could have. They had a skill called Pacifism or Pacify, something like that. So this cantrip is utility focused. You will pacify foes, dazing them. Fear, taunt, and confusion are removed from allies. And the old tome on Guardian used to have these intricate ground targeting designs, and I would love to see those return. So I took inspiration from that. You'll daze enemies, but you'll remove fear, taunt, and confusion from allies. It's very much utility focused. The fourth utility is more damage oriented. Spotless Soul. Call upon fiery magics to break your own stuns, and empower your next few attacks. This is a self-stun break, and your next 3 strikes will be unblockable and also apply burning, 1 stack of burning. The elite I have come up with is Watchful Spirit. Summon a divine entity to watch over an area. Enemies within the radius of this divine spirit will be blinded, while allies will have conditions cured. So it's kind of like inspiration from the gods, where if you're in the presence of a god, humans are blinded, but this is much more oriented to who allies are and who enemies are. So you'll just blind enemies, and you'll cure conditions for allies who are in the radius. I would honestly probably shrink the radius to 240 or something like that. 300 might seem a little bit too much, but it is also a fire field. Because I was like, I'm lacking in different combo fields on my elite specs, so it gives it a little extra. Okay, now that we did the utilities, we did the professional mechanic, and we did the weapons, let's go into the traits. So, first, let's go with the minor trait, Patient Spirit. Deal more damage the closer you are to a target. And also, heal more when healing allies at a greater range. You'll do 10% more damage to enemies within a range of 240, and you'll heal allies if you are at a range of 600 or greater. So this minor trait really goes into the 2 themes I wanted to go for with the monk. This being melee damage, and also ranged healing. Okay, there is a second minor. I told you that I was really a fan of Guardians, so I made 2 minors, which I might not have done for the other elite specs. But this is just called Pensive Evasion. Successfully evading attacks, or an attack, will grant stability. This is on a 5-second cooldown, and I would change the stability to only half a second or 1 second. 2 seconds might be a little too strong, and maybe a little too powerful. So yeah, the stability duration would be lowered now that I'm looking at it. Okay, now we're going into the adepts. This first adept I have is Monk's Training. Activating a prayer grants you stability and deals damage around you. You'll do a strike that I just titled Monk's Strike damage and some stability. Pretty normal. This trait goes into the line of direct damage and dueling, basically. The next is a master trait, which might seem like a lot, but this trait directly affects Offhand Sword, so just keep that in mind. It reads, Castigation Saber's Soul Flame, the 4th skill, will now travel back towards you when it reaches its end. So it won't just go in a straight line, it'll go in a straight line and then return back. So that's the 4th skill. This trait will also augment the 5th skill on the Offhand Sword. Extinguish Evil can now be activated once more if you have summoned any soul embers. Reactivating this skill draws in all soul embers towards you, dealing damage and burning while granting you might for each soul ember consumed. Basically, if you have any of those like little soul flame pickups on the floor, you could reactivate this to just vacuum suck them all up directly straight towards you. Any enemies between you and the soul flame would take damage and slight burning. It would consume the effect, but they would still travel towards you and grant you might. So this is really dedicated towards the sword. The final Grandmaster is slightly more simple, but is directly emphasizing healing. It's titled, the Grandmaster, Pure Benefactor. Might now strengthens healing power and power, but has a reduced duration on you. Additionally, you'll gain healing power based on your power. So I've always looked at these might augmenting traits where it's like, you do more power instead of condition damage now. So I was like, what if I change it to make might a simple boon that focuses in on power specifically? These 2 sets of power being physical power and healing power. Condition damage will no longer be a factor in might if this trait was selected. So 30 healing power and 30 power, that's how the stat increase you'd get if you had 1 stack of might, and it would of course grow with more stacks. The reduced might duration would be 25% less uptime, but you also gain healing power based on a percentage of power, this being 10%. So this Pure Benefactor really goes into, you're going to be empowering your healing power. So that was my trait selection. Yay. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by and watching my monk video. I had a lot of fun making all of these, and I will be working on the final elite spec coming very soon for the Revenant, which also has a lot going on with it. So, like the video, liked it, comment below your thoughts about my creation of the monk. How would you like to see a Guardian elite spec be implemented? Would you like to see a monk? Would you like to see something else? More physical damage or tankiness? And I'll see you guys in the next video. All my links down below, and I'll see you guys later. There's sirens. Bye, everyone!